Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.
Hello, and welcome to Champions of Psychology, a show with the goal of openly talking about mental health and gaming, presented by Codename Entertainment and TakeThis.org. Every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on twitch.tv/CNDGames, or later on your favorite podcast service, Mitra Jordan and Raffael Boccamazzo, aka Dr. B, talk about mental health in these unprecedented times, as well as how gaming affects us. If you're here with us live in the chat, you can leave a question that I, Treavor Bettis, will ask them later in the show. And our topic today is vacations and why they are important. But I didn't put that whole thing into the title of the overlay because it was really long, but vacations. But before we get to that, who are you for the fine folks who may not know?
Well, I'm Mitra Jordan. I'm a registered clinical counselor in Victoria, BC. I do psychotherapy and counseling work with couples, families, kids, individuals, humans. Although, I'm pretty versed in cats, but that hasn't really come up. It's not a thing. But anyway, I work in Victoria. I see clients usually virtually these days, and we often talk about games and gaming and strategies to gamify your life and your work and your goals and beat those big bosses. So that's me. Boy, I could really go on today. Please, Raffael, save me, Dr. B, save me.
Dr. B, I'm Clyde Skipwinkle, Esquire.
Oh, yeah, sorry, right. Where did Dr. Raffael Boccamazzo with long Italian name reasons go this week?
This is how punchy I'm getting at the end of the year. I don't even know where the name Clyde Skipwinkle came from, but here we are.
It matches your waistcoat. Do we need a holiday? What's going on?
I really enjoy the fact, by the way, I like that we're starting this one off with laughs after last week's, but I really like that she said Raffael Boccamazzo with a long Italian name reasons. Not even.
Did I just say 4?
No, you're just like Raffael has long Italian name reasons.
I do. I have long Italian name reasons for so much in my life. But hi, everybody. I'm Dr. B, or Raffael Boccamazzo. I'm a clinical psychologist in Washington State, and I'm the clinical director at Take This. If you're not following TakeThis.org, go check us out. We offer all sorts of free resources, education on mental health matters. And I'm also an expert on the applied use of games in clinical and learning settings. And God, I need a vacation because it has been, I am so punchy today. And wow, I need a break. How about y'all?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You keep breaking into song. I keep losing my train of thought. This is going to be an interesting one, folks. That's all I can say.
It really is. The pre-production meeting was basically a musical episode yesterday. And this morning, as it's been ridiculous. God, we all need a vacation.
Yeah. So, well, and that's what we're here to talk about today. We're saying vacation, and like it's. I think the longer way that we want to say it is like taking time away from work.
God,
yes. Is because we understand that the word vacation has a lot of things associated with it, and a lot of things that people are like, I can't do that. I can't take a vacation. Vacations are a luxury in the way that most people think of them, but we're mainly meaning getting away from what you're doing day in and day out.
Absolutely it does. If y'all haven't seen the College Humor video about your friend who travels, it's worth a watch, because a lot of people associate vacation with you have to go travel the world, and that is absolute bunk. that is,
especially these
there's
days.
so many layers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why don't we start with what we usually do, which is like defining what we're exactly talking about.
Yeah.
Where,
Yeah, we can do that. Mitra, you want to take this one?
Sure, we started. And so, what we mean, as we said, is a change to your daily routines with as many, I guess, breaks for your brain as you can possibly have. So, being able to take a break from your daily routines means either doing something more restful, if that's possible, even if it's for half a day or a day, planning if you have a weekend off to just have a day where you don't do anything that's related to chores or work. So just being able to take some time away.
Mhm.
Now, if obviously, if you're able to over the winter break, take a little more time, go easy on yourself and make your winter break as less sort of um, less to do with obligation and commitment
Mhm.
if you can.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about taking space for you, really, is what it comes down to.
And we've talked about that. We've talked about this in the past, that I think all three of us share a hatred of the commodification and the sort of entrepreneurial takeover of the term self-care.
Mhm.
That very often we conflate the term luxury with the term self-care. And I think a lot of people very frequently conflate the idea of, going on a trip, and it has to be this grand thing,
Yeah.
as the concept of a vacation, when really what we're talking about for the purposes of this show is anything that is deliberate and restorative for you. And that is a highly personalized thing that we are going to talk about at length. But
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be that you hop a flight to Fiji. It doesn't have to be that you take a cruise. In fact, you're probably going to hear about why I am the wrong person to take on a cruise in hilarious detail. But so it's the idea that you're taking deliberate time to do restorative things for you. Simple as that, but also as complicated as that. So, yeah.
Because I think the problem with restorative times for you in terms of what's in our head, okay, we'll talk about me, what's in my head. So I might have an idea that I have like an afternoon where I don't have commitments, clients, anything particular. And then I'll walk out, out of this office and into my house, which is where I am a lot of the time. And I'll see that there's laundry or there's, the phone rings or something will happen and I'm derailed.
Mhm.
And so when we say deliberate, there's that element of needing to protect that time for yourself, because it's so easy to get derailed and suddenly there's a bunch of duties and chores that you're like, oh well, I started doing X, I might as well do Y as well. I might as well just take on these things because then they'll be done. There's, in my opinion, never really an end to things that need to be done. There's always going to be something in all of our lives, or for someone else in our lives there might be something. And so there has to be some way to really protect that time and stay on course in terms of using it for a restorative purpose.
Well, and one of the other things we have to acknowledge is that we exist in a system that for so many people, first of all, the idea, especially in North America and the US in particular, that doing nothing is a waste of time, that your worth is so linked to productivity that it's not even funny.
Yeah.
And I want to throw this out there to everybody, that one, your worth is not tied to your productivity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But additionally, doing nothing is doing something. And a metaphor I like to borrow from was something I read in Bruce Lee's writings, or writings about Bruce Lee, because he was tremendously philosophical. And one of his students asked him, could we have a phone meeting on a certain day? And he said, no, that's my day for doing nothing. And this student was like a Hollywood producer or something, and this didn't grok with his brain, the idea of not being productive. And he pushed back on this, well, it's just a phone meeting. No, that's my day for doing nothing. Okay, but what if we just talk for 5 minutes? No, that's my day for doing nothing. And he eventually had to explain that doing nothing is not a waste of time, because it's like a pause in music, and it doesn't take away from the music itself. It adds to the completeness of it. And this is how I'd like everybody to think about this. It doesn't have, again, vacation doesn't have to be a grandiose week-long thing. It's just a pause. It's a deliberate pause to add to yourself, to be restorative.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've had that soapbox.
Yeah. And to add to that, the reason we're being clear about this, about doing nothing, is that in our experience of holidays or people taking time away and trips, is it's not that those can't be restorative, but those can actually be quite, those can be felt as or experienced as a lot of pressure to not waste this time.
Oh God, yes.
And I think that's the problem in that sense, is we want to get away from that feeling of pressure. So when my kids were little, we used to go up island, about an hour and a half away from where we live, to an area that was like a very casual sort of family resort situation. It was right on the ocean. We were lucky enough to be able to do this. And it was kind of a very bounded experience, in the sense that we'd get there, I'd go to do a grocery shop and get our vacation foods. It was right on a beach that the tide was out for much of the day, so it was mostly sand, dry and wet, and the kids could just really play on the sand, and I could be a little bit further away with a cup of tea, just kind of taking my time. And it was bounded because it was being there and doing nothing. So in that sense, it was restorative. It had a lot of self-care features. It wasn't about going somewhere and now I've got to do the horseback riding thing, or go to the museums, or it wasn't filled with all of those, we're here, we better kind of see and do everything. And so a big piece of this is getting away from that feeling of I have to do everything. And I think Dr. B has a lot to say.
Oh God, do I ever.
Yeah.
Do I? Well, and this is part of the reason that we talk about this as what's restorative for you, because this is so highly personalized. The very first time I ever went on a vacation with my ex-wife, my now ex-wife, we went to San Francisco. I had never been to San Francisco. I was still in grad school at the time. I didn't have any money. I didn't travel because, traveling is expensive. And I didn't grow up in a family that often had the means to do that. And so she had way more money than I did at the time, and probably still does. And she took me to San Francisco as a birthday present. And I was like, what is this? This is a 5-star hotel. I need to kick myself out because I don't belong here. And we were exploring. She had a scroll of single-spaced notes of all the things we were going to do in San Francisco with our time.
This is the scroll of vacation.
This was the +5 scroll of vacationing. And at 5:45 local time, we will be having fun for 3 minutes eating a chocolate at this location that we will walk to. It was like her version of vacationing was overwhelming to me. And it was so overwhelming to me. And it was interesting that when we were just walking through a neighborhood, wandering against her amidst some protest stations from her because we were, wasting time, I saw a sign. This was in the Italian neighborhood of San Francisco, and it was for cannoli. And I just had this inspiration. I'm going to find the best cannoli while we are here. She got out her phone and a guidebook, and I practically slapped the guidebook out of her hand, just saying, no, we shall not look at that. We shall find it. And she said, but what if we eat bad cannoli? And I said, you're missing the point here. This is the process. This is the journey. This is the story. And that concept was anathema to her. That it took us like a day and a half to resolve what was going on there. Like we would have one packed day of agenda, and it deserved the capital A. And one day of wandering, because that's what was restorative for me, doing nothing. With my autism brain, being able to shut my brain down and not think, that's vacation to me in whatever form it comes.
I would like to know what her feelings were when her significant other knocked a book out of her hand and suddenly started talking like the dungeon master.
I didn't actually knock
I
it.
know.
That would have been, I would feel awful if
Cheers
I ever
to
did that. You don't use violence like that, especially against people you like.
But no,
General.
that makes a lot of sense. Like that may have been restorative for her, but that wasn't for you. And like that is a big thing. Like you, despite how much you have in common with your significant other, you both might have completely different ways of feeling restored. And that's something to really think about when planning not even a vacation, just time off together. Yeah. I saw a question pop up about ADHD with this, and we will get to that later because I have opinions.
Me too.
Yeah.
So many opinions, but I may forget them by the time we get there. But
That's
such
true.
is life. Keep
So
going.
Luckily,
That's why we wrote
Jay and Mars
things
wrote it down.
down.
Yeah, Jay and Mars wrote it
it's
down,
true.
so we're good. But I also do want to point out though that when Dr. B was talking about it, was like, do nothing. Take time to do nothing. I was sitting here nodding along. This was a fake nod because I hear it, but I don't understand it.
Okay. I had to learn to do that. And I have a process actually, because I get so ingrained in doing all the things that it takes me 2 days to let go of that mindset. Like the first day, I have to have a vacation of no less than 3 days, because day one, anxious wandering.
Oh yeah.
I'm wandering around the house, just like stroking my palms because it's my stim and I'm distressed. And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm practically doing one-legged circles in my kitchen, just going, what can I do here? What can I do here? And then by the end of day one, I'm starting to relax a little bit. Day two, I'm a little anxious, but I like sink into my couch and play Animal Crossing. And then by day three, I can actually embrace the nothing.
Embrace
3-day
the
process.
nothing. Can we get a shirt with that? Can we get a shirt that says embrace the nothing? I really like that. But Mitra, you had some thoughts on this type of style for vacation.
Yeah. So for me, I also live in a household with other people. And I also am often responsible for running various aspects of the household. Like, if I don't get the eggs, probably no one's going to get the eggs unless I direct them to do it, if you will. Or whatever it is we need. I get we're out of this with the assumption that I'll go take care of it, right? So for me, it comes down to planning certain things and setting expectation with other people so that I actually have some space, which looks like get all the things that I think we could otherwise run out of, and let people know that if we run out of anything else, it's their job, not mine, to take care of it. And let them know I'm not going to be doing anything. Like, you can ask if you want, but I'm going to go do my own thing. Now I'm creating space. It's actually easiest if I have a thing I want to do, or if I'm out of the house, to be honest. But my other way of doing it is to stay in bed for the day. If I'm in my pajamas, good luck getting me to go do anything. First off, but it's kind of, if they see I'm not super available, then that works. But if I'm downstairs and in the living room and kind of just sitting there, then clearly I'm available, right? So I have to find places to be, or I have to have a plan. And that plan might be going away, just, on a drive with a friend or for a cup of tea or just out sometimes, or be really clear that I'm home, but I'm going to be doing a thing. And that thing might be no thing, but it's a thing that doesn't include me doing things for or with anyone else. I will say that my husband and I do actually vacation very well, fortunately. We're the sort of people who, if we are doing a thing that leads us to go away, we'll plan one night of where we're going to go or be. And then we're usually pretty spontaneous about the rest of it because that's less stressful. And sometimes when people hear this, they're like, oh my God, I couldn't do that. I need every day organized and planned, which, sounds exhausting to me because I have a life where days really require a lot. So this is also thinking about what your life involves and therefore what would be useful for you. For me, it's restorative to not have a plan. For some people, it's restorative maybe to have one, so they don't have to give it much thought every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I'm in that second boat or the first boat. I don't want to plan. No.
Yeah. My life usually has me scheduled quite a bit of the time. So not being scheduled is part of what's restorative.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's actually, I think, actually pretty good segue, because I think we want to talk about what is restorative for us.
Yeah.
Dr. B, why don't you start that? What's restorative for you?
It depends. I mean, it really depends. But ultimately turning my brain off, because there's and not being beholden to other people, because that's so much of my life. Like Mitra said, I'm scheduled. I have very busy I have very things, many people that like, to the point that I think I'm doing 5 panels this weekend at PAX Unplugged, and people are like, oh my God, 5 panels? I'm like, nah, 5's fine. Once you get into the double digits, then let's talk about where it's bad.
In one day.
In one weekend, okay? Once you get up there, then I'm getting really stressed, because this is just the way my life is.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of not being beholden to people, to doing what I want and only what I want. Sometimes that's doing nothing and quote unquote wasting the day. Sometimes that is it is me doing empowering things. Like over Thanksgiving weekend, I rearranged my whole house and made it more the way I wanted it to be, as a source of comfort. But ultimately taking the pressures off of me and just letting me do what I want, and people staying away from me, because I've said this before, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what we're doing. Being autistic, for me, being around any other person, there's an element of me having to give or act in a way that's expected. And that's not against anybody else. It's just the world we live in and the expectations that people have. So yeah, just being about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can really relate to that in terms of expectations and a sense of responsibility to the people in my life. And I know that when I'm getting really tired and overloaded, I'm experiencing the people in my life as a set of requests and expectations and demands, and I'm not seeing them as a source of, I guess, comfort, connection. And so that's a real sign for me, actually, that I need to take time away. And so another piece of this is really knowing what the signs are for you, that your nerves are getting shredded, that you're tired, that you actually really need a break. Because that's also what's going to sustain your life. This restorative piece isn't kind of something fancy. It's something that everyone needs to do. We all need to fill our cup. Otherwise, we aren't available to ourselves and to anyone else. And we are, sometimes we think about how important it is to be available for others, but we are others too, in the sense that I remember.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, there's a supervisor who was training me at one point, and she said, remember, self is always listening. So if you say to someone else, oh, cut yourself some slack, you should give yourself a break, maybe you need a little time off, is there any way, that we can kind of make that happen? You're listening too. There's a piece of you that is listening to what you share with others. So if you're kind and compassionate with your friends and you're not with yourself, there's ways in which you're letting yourself down there, because it's like, because we know that there's that disconnect sometimes between what I'm saying, how kind I say, you should be good to yourself and you should be compassionate, and I say should here, but you know what I mean. I really mean, like, it's helpful to be gentle with yourself. And then if I'm harsh with myself, it's like I'm letting myself down. There's a bit of mistrust going on. Anyway, that relates to.
I've got to ponder what you just said. Self is always listening.
You're the wizard pondering orb man meme now. Yeah, no, that's it is funny because you made me think with the listening as yourself. Like, there's so many times I told her, like, you need to take a break from work and stuff like that, and my wife will look at me, I'm like, are you impersonating the definition of irony right now? And so yeah, it definitely, I'll listen to that sort of stuff. For my restorative thing, like I put down in the notes decompression time, and what I kind of mean by that is kind of the highlight reel of decompression time, because with ADHD, like if I sit there, like let's say I'm gonna take the whole day and just play Skyrim, I'm gonna get 2 hours into that and just be like, I need to be doing other things, my brain is moving too fast, I can't focus on this anymore, and then I just go, and then I get stuck and I don't play Skyrim anymore, and then it's just downhill from there. I have started doing a highlight day of decompression time, where essentially I get in my head, I'm like, okay, what's some things that I would do after work that I can fill a day with? It's like, okay, I'm gonna play Destiny for a little bit. Then I'm gonna work on some of the Gundams that I'm building. Then I'm gonna watch Twin Peaks while I'm playing Pokemon.
I love this.
And essentially just build out this highlight reel of what I would do sometimes after work to decompress and fill a day with it.
Great.
And then it's just kind of it's just a nice little day.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
Dr. B, do you want to build Gundams with me?
I kind of do.
I gotta finish this Tall Geese backpack. I still gotta finish the guns on the Zaku.
Let's do this in tandem. I'll paint minis, you build Gundam.
Yeah. Oh, I got minis I gotta paint too. They're right here. There's a whole drawer of them.
Good night, everybody. This is
I'll put together my Lego bonsai tree that I've been meaning to put together for ages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Reaper 01 singing, do you want to build a Gundam?
So good.
But yeah, that's and like, I say that and it sounds really cool and everything like that. It doesn't always go according to plan or whatnot. Like, stuff happens and whatnot, but like there's been a few times where I'm just like, that was a fun day. Just did a bunch of random little crap.
Yeah, I mean, I think the highlight of my last vacation was me crashing on my Yogi-Bo beanbag, busting out my Switch, and not moving from there for about 5 hours while I played Animal Crossing and had MASH reruns playing in the background.
That sounds lovely.
That does sound really great.
Yeah. Somebody came by and checked on me, and they were like, hey, you good where you are? And I was like, yeah, cool.
So what actually, I just looked at the time. We're having good conversation here. I wasn't even noticing the time. We got to take a quick break for our disclaimer for our viewers and listeners. And then when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this and then check in with viewers. Remember, you can drop your questions into chat, and our amazing mods, Mars and Jay, will grab them, put them in a doc that I can possibly read later if I have enough time. But just put them in there. We'll be right back.
Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.
Okay, so now we're back. Mitra, you want to do a shout out real quick though?
I do. I want to shout out my friend Susan, mom of 3 Reds. And she and I got pretty connected over the pandemic at the beginning, and we have been really close ever since. We met in person a couple of times before that, but the big thing is we play Animal Crossing together while we're chatting. So we chat on the phone and we're playing Animal Crossing, and we visit each other's islands. And it's just been a lovely, lovely friendship that's extended into chatting at other times, like when cooking or doing other chores. And it just kind of helps us not always be kind of focused on being parents or doing chores or any of that stuff, but being connected and sharing this fun hobby together. Sometimes we'll chat while she builds Lego. It's a good time.
That's so good.
Yeah. Susan, love you lots.
But the next thing that we wanted to touch on was expectations versus reality, because I personally feel like this is something that can massively ruin a vacation just dead center in the middle of it. Where do you want to start with that one?
I want to talk about, let me ask Servatrix's question that was just asked right now, because I think it ties into this. The question, can you also talk about advocacy around ensuring that employers uphold their responsibility to encouraging people to take vacations? Hey, managers, hi.
Yeah.
Hi. That's their time off. Okay. Don't if your operation can't give people time off, that's a structural problem. Okay. And your employees, if we want to approach this from a purely capitalistic sense, your employees will burn out faster, and that's expensive to you. Okay. So don't email them while they're taking weekends or vacations for non-emergency matters, because emergencies happen, but if emergencies are happening regularly, that's a structural issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I feel like we did a whole episode ranting about the way that employers do that stuff, especially here in the United States. Yeah, I still think one of my favorite images ever, because there's a lot of those text shots that are going around of like employers just being jerks trying to make people come in. One of my favorite ones was from a manager that says, we're really short staffed tonight, 3 servers called out, and the response was, that really sucks, good luck though. Like appropriate response.
Yeah
No, that was why we wanted to say that at the beginning, like about how we understand this is very much a luxury thing. This is not something that everyone gets to just say, I'm taking a vacation, as much as they should be able to. But this is just trying to talk about like why at least taking time for yourself is in a vacation way. Like, one of the words that got thrown around in chat earlier was staycation, and I've used that many a time.
Love those.
Where it's just like where I tell people, I'm like, yeah, I'm going on vacation. They're like, where you go? I'm just like, my couch. And that's about it. That doing that at the very least is going to be good for you, because I mean, Dr. B, you're talking about yesterday where people was like, oh, you have to travel. Like you gotta go here, and you gotta see this place and tell them I sent you. I'm just like, and like I loved your thing. It's just like, okay, well, I have 2 days off. And it will take me 12 hours to get there. I can spend a total of 5 minutes in that place, then get back on a plane and be at work on Monday morning.
Well, and this is where we get back into the expectations versus reality thing. Like for so many people, and the expectation, vacations with a capital V, I'm going someplace, I'm spending money to be there. They're a rarity, and they are a luxury. And suddenly
Yes.
we have all this pressure, not just from other people, but from ourselves to
Yep.
vacation properly.
And that is where expectations come in.
Yeah. And the other piece is if you go somewhere with, family or a partner or a couple of friends, and, we all have ideas about what it is we want to see and do there. And it can be very difficult if those don't line up. So, either the pressure is how much time, the pressure may also, of course, be how much money. And those limiting factors can create a lot of unhappiness around I'm here in this special place if I've been able to go anywhere, and I only have so much time, and I wanted to do and see this thing with you, but you want to do and see this other thing. And yeah, so that's stressful. And that can even be stressful when you haven't gone away very far, um, maybe you're just away for a weekend with a partner. They're like, there's these 8 activities. And you're like, I just need to lie here.
Yeah.
So talking about these things ahead of time, just as if you're doing a staycation, talking about it ahead of time. Yeah, I know I'm here, but I'm not actually available at this point. How do we respect those boundaries that we set?
Yep.
That's really important. And first you have to set them. Don't expect other people to understand without you sharing what you need.
Yeah. It's setting those expectations is important. And this also gets back into Lamia Servitrix's question that if other people have different expectations for you and your vacation, and you can't basically do what you need to do, because remember, we're using vacation in the term broadly to mean something restorative. It doesn't mean you have to go anywhere. It just means something that is going to be emotionally and cognitively restorative to you.
Mm-hmm.
And like for me, with these expectations, again, I'm picking on my ex-wife a lot today. We had some very different expectations of some things, and vacations were just a good example of this, because her parents at one point took us on a cruise. It was the one cruise I've ever been on. I probably will not repeat the experience. But because it was her parents taking us both on this, there was this, for me, what I would have loved to have done was sit in the library and drink macchiato all day while reading and or playing video games.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a pressure coming from her to show her parents appreciation for what they did by going to do all the things that we had planned. And for me, again, I'm autistic. I don't like hot weather. I don't like direct sunlight.
Yep.
I don't like gritty textures and sandies, sand. And so we were in the Caribbean, in hot weather and sand and direct sunlight, and when I would have really liked to have been in the shade in the library drinking macchiatos. And it became this pressure to show my appreciation for vacationing properly.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I feel like this is the expectations with what you're going to be doing. I feel like it was very well illustrated in the documentary National Lampoon's Vacation. And it's a joke and it's a comedy movie, but like legitimately the whole reason the dad snaps in that movie is because he had set expectations in his head of how that trip was going to go, and literally ruined the whole thing for everyone because of his expectations.
Yeah.
And it's a comedy movie. I get that. He's like, John Candy, we're going to go on a ride and I'm pointing a gun at you. But like, like that's not real. But the fact that this man several times throughout those movies went somewhere with expectations, ruined the whole trip for everyone because of those.
Right. Yeah. It's a tough thing.
Yeah. And then like, I definitely think like what you're saying, the communication part of it is really key. Like talking about what your idea of a vacation is probably going to be most likely very different from anyone else that's on that trip, regardless of your relation to them.
Yep.
You gonna say something, Mitra?
Oh, I was just thinking about the Louvre.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
God. Ah. Yeah.
the Louvre story.
Oh God. All right.
No, wait, no. Actually, hold
you
on.
want-
You can't actually tell this to people online because then it's going to be mythical. Okay, we're just going to refer to this the Louvre story, and we can never tell anybody what it is.
It's just our code word for bad family times.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Brings up a
Louvre.
lot of the Louvre. Yeah, it sounds really fancy, but it actually was not. So yeah. But it definitely leads into the whole idea of what expectations other people might have, and other people having more power than you in that particular instance. As in, if you're a kid on a vacation and you want to do a thing and your parents are like, no, we're doing this, I get it, but I would encourage parents to think about their children's needs while on vacation as well.
Yeah. I mean, I know I didn't vacation well as a kid. ADHD kid that loved video games. I did not vacation well as a kid. I didn't Boy Scout camp well as a kid.
I actually want to challenge you a little bit on that, Trevor. Did you not vacation well, or were the vacations not built for your needs?
No, they absolutely were. It was just, okay, I'll give you a good example with the ADHD part of it. Like, really good vacation planned and everything, stuff that I did want to do. The Lost in Space movie came out, dating myself for when that was. And I saw one trailer for it as a under 10-year-old kid, and I'm like, this is my jam, this is my everything. I'm hyper focused on this for the next week. And that's all I thought about while being in Flagstaff, Arizona, in the snow, in like really pretty areas, and that's all I was focused on. And I 100% know I ruined crap.
Yeah, honestly, it's so hard. Yeah, hyperfocus really can interfere. And I definitely, I've had that experience, both myself and other family members, because we have a few of us here with ADHD.
Yes.
So, yeah.
We are getting towards the point where we're gonna check in with the viewers. But is there any last points that you want to hit about vacations, time off, self-care, and stuff like that before we get to that?
Well, here's my tip. What I want to leave you with something that I've always felt helpful for me. Anarchy. Okay. Vacation anarchy. That's what's helpful. No, the idea that you do what's actually restorative for you, regardless of other people's expectations, because there is the only kind of like the way I talk about Dungeons and Dragons, that if you're having fun, you're doing it right. Well, if you're finding vacations restorative, then you're doing it right. If a vacation is not restorative, something's going amiss.
Yeah. Vacation randomness, someone put in there. I like that.
No, I'm going to go with vacation anarchy.
Coming to theaters this fall.
Yeah.
What you got a tip, Mitra, for the audience?
Actually, I have a little memory that I think of as a tip. So one time when Eric and I were on a little bit of a road trip, we ended up sitting in a hotel, and this was not so long ago, so pandemic times, right? A lot of the sort of dining options in the hotel were closed because pandemic times, and this was just a little bit up island because, again, pandemic times. But that was the lovely thing. There was very little pressure, so less pressure is good. And we sat there all evening while they brought us stuff from the bar and drinks, and we played board games on an iPad, and it was just the best time. We just enjoyed, there was a gorgeous view, and we just kind of sat there, ate, drank, played board games, felt no stress whatsoever. Is it something we could maybe have done closer to home? Perhaps. It was pretty close to home anyway. But the point is, what's restorative doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
The simpler often the better. We can just kind of sink into an experience and have fun with the people we care about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The advice I think the tip that I'm going to give is just taking time. Of just like, you can have those planned out things and have fun with it and whatnot, but I also recommend planning out some time to just not do anything. and the board game thing, I really like that. Yeah, board game is something you can do at home, but like take it somewhere else and play it somewhere else, and that is still a completely different experience.
Totally.
Just take time and enjoy just existing outside of a schedule. But let's go ahead and check in with the viewers and see what has been going on. I clicked over to the document, and in all caps from Armand J, I just see, "I'll build Gundams with you, Trevor." Okay, we'll talk about that, Jay. Reaver01 says, for our host, did you see that the U.S. Surgeon General released a new advisory today on youth mental health? I have not read it yet since it's like 57 pages long. I have not read it either. I didn't even hear about it.
I did, in fact, see that it was released.
Okay. That you can check that. Viewers, you check that out at your leisure.
I will be reading it at some point, but I leave for PAX Unplugged tomorrow, so probably not.
Yeah. Let's see. Rat with Wings, fantastic name. Good. I can't believe you got that. Well done. Next season's opener, Champion Psychology the musical. Don't tempt him.
Oh,
I
God,
see the look in his eye.
Don't tempt him.
No,
Please.
I'm gonna have to be dubbed.
Oh no.
You can't
here he
bow
goes.
tie me down.
I actually did do karaoke a few months ago, and everyone was like, "Ah, man, you were really good." I was like, "No, that's premeditated. I chose a Jack Black song. I knew I could sound good there." That was about staycations. We did talk about that. Let's see. This is from Dota2_Norax. Question. In lots of countries, you have 20 to 30 annual paid days for you to take as a holiday. If you work from home, how do you manage such days while being in lockdown, parentheses, no travels? You are basically in the same room you are working in. How do you make that healthy and let you take a mental break? I don't know what your living space looks like. I know that like this is where I work. Like this is not just a streamer place. This is where I work all day. There is a little sliding or accordion door here, and that gets closed when I'm done. And I am not in here anymore. I do not look in here. I do not come in here. And that is how I personally separate it. Like if you're in someplace where your workspace is in the same place as your living room space, or anywhere else, dividers might be the best thing, in my opinion. Like I know my wife talks about a studio that she and her dad and her sister used to live in, and they would section off places with thin dividers to give it the look of a room that is separate from everything else.
Yeah. Yes, if your place is small, I highly recommend dividers or a desk to one side where you work, that you don't do other things there, or you find a way to change that desk and that setup in order to make it a different space. This is where I work. It is also where I sew and craft sometimes. This area back here actually houses a sewing machine, for instance. The curtains behind me house some of my hobby stuff. On one side, and also workbooks on the other. It's closed while I stream, and it's closed when I'm with clients. I also have a sound maker right outside that just kind of does a fan noise. When that's running, I know I'm working. So it's kind of so that kind of helps me recognize this is what's going on right now. With ADHD, you need all the help you can get.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, and it luckily looks out onto our backyard, so it's kind of nice to be able to just take a minute and look out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, separating those spaces as best as you can really does make a difference to sort of, where am I? What am I doing here right now?
Yeah.
And I think we did an episode on this on working from home, didn't we?
I think we've talked about it in a couple of the pandemic episodes.
Like work home separation. We probably should talk about that at some point, because one of the advantages of going to an external place to do work is that you get all of these cues and transitions built in. Other tips that that I've seen from people, if you don't have the luxury of having additional space, is creating either transition times. One of the things I did during the pandemic at some point was I commuted to away
Oh,
from
I
work.
love this one.
That where I left my office here, walked 10 feet to my car, 3 meters for those of you who don't use freedom units.
He's been doing this.
I'm gonna be over here. You all continue.
I go about 10 feet or about 3.33 meters away from where my desk is, and I would sit in my car and listen to the radio for like 15 minutes because that was my commute. Another thing I would do is when I'm at work, I use my boring keyboard. This is not my fancy Corsair keyboard, and I will create sometimes a different account, my work account on my computer, where I don't have the tempting games that I want to play, and I will only put on the stuff that I need to do for work. So just different ways of creating transitions and visual cues are.
The keyboard one messed me up. That's a really good idea.
Yeah,
I've got my writing keyboard out here. That's a really, really good idea.
Yeah, it's a way that I'll create that sort of work home separation if I really need to. I mean, thankfully I've worked from home for like 6 years now, so I make sure I have additional space. But
I actually do want to call it one that another mod hopped into our mod discussion thread to put in there. Martin jumped in and said, "I have my lights different colors when I'm working."
Yeah.
Which I think is a really, really cool idea too. Because I mean, especially here, I've got like streamer lights and whatnot. Like, I mean, even it'd actually be kind of fun to make this like, what color light is this? Depends on what I'm doing. I really like that one. Let's see. This is from Friday_CWU. Question: being in Washington State myself, there is such emphasis on doing nothing and maintaining that as a component of work-life balance. What would you recommend to do for people who have ADHD and other neurodisorders, where doing nothing is more stressful than doing all the things?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about that.
Yeah. I don't know if you're at all into crafts and things like that, but I find that doing something with my hands that's requires some concentration, but isn't stressful to do can be really great.
Yeah.
So I don't know if your thing might be painting minis, or maybe it could be like if you enjoy cooking or woodworking or something, that can be really helpful, or playing a really I guess game like Animal Crossing or something, where you don't have to really focus terribly much on what you're doing all of the time. You can kind of do your little routines and also watch something or do something else. For some people, there's fiddling with things in their hands. I'm actually gonna
I have this thing that I've been fiddling with
hairbands the whole time.
So
this is a really good little fidget thing.
Though we have several of those in the house. Those are great.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah, I really like those. And actually, I was trying to see if I had one within reach. But one of my favorites is sort of the color changing putty stuff you can get, and you can kind of stretch it out and play with it and fiddle with it. So that can help. Listening to a podcast while going for a walk or something, because I get it. I find it hard to sit still sometimes too.
I mean, this is me. I know like people have different things with the ADHD and stuff, but like I do find that I can focus better if I have something else going on while I'm doing something. Like one of my Saturday thing recently has been working on this big Gundam unit while having Twin Peaks on. And like I sit there and I'm doing the stuff, and then occasionally it's just like Laura Palmer, and I pay attention to that for a little bit. And like even when I'm playing video games, like if I'm not online with my friends and chatting, I probably have a podcast on, like playing from my phone or whatnot while I'm playing, and then I pause during cutscenes, and do stuff like that, because I find that with my ADHD, it helps me focus better if there's something else going on. And I
Definitely.
I don't know why.
Yeah. It's not so much that you literally have to do nothing, of course. It's more
Yeah.
like doing things of your choosing that aren't necessarily productive,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
So.
I know when I say do nothing, I mean not doing something that can be construed as work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I am
That's-
not
yeah.
planning out a podcast. I am not working on social media. I am not editing. I'm not doing any of those things. I'm doing something that is purely for me. So, but we are getting towards the end here. We do got to wrap up because we got Bardic Inspiration right afterwards. Thank you so much for tuning into this, asking your questions and whatnot. We really do appreciate it. Friends, where can people find you on the interwebs if they would like to do so?
Well, where it says at Mitra Jordan is good, mitrajordan.com as well. I am available and I do respond. And I'm not as consistently and frequently available as Dr. B over here. So
Infrequently available. I am in all
you're
I am in all
everywhere.
places at all times. I am the owner of several of the Infinity Gems. Thank you. No, I am. You can find me below on most of the social medias at the Dr. B. That's TheeDoctor. B as in boy. And yeah, I'm around. I do all sorts of stuff. But yeah, make sure to also follow Take This on all the social media at TakeThisOrg, because they're the more important account to follow.
I feel like you are equally. You should follow both.
I mean, if you follow me, you're going to get rants about my random thoughts, occasional puns, dad jokes, and D&D stuff. And
I mean, that's why I follow you. You can find me on the From the Same Mr. podcast, which the season finale is this Friday. And who knows if we're going to do more. Actually, we probably might, because one of my siblings came up with a really good idea for something. So you can check that out on all podcasting platforms, as well as all my other podcasts, which you can find on my Twitter account at the Treavor. There is an A hiding in there. Thank you to Jay and Mars for moderating the chat today and doing an awesome job. And thank you to Codename Entertainment and Take This for giving us an opportunity to have these discussions. If you missed any part of the show, you can listen to it later on your favorite podcast service. Eventually, when I have time to edit it, it will be up, though. It will be there. Trust me. Just not specifically at 2. If you have any suggestions for future topics that you'd like us to talk about, because we're getting towards the end of the season. It's happening again. I know. We only got a couple more. So yeah, if you have any suggestions for topics that you want us here to talk about, send those into championspsychology@codenameentertainment.com, or if that's too long, just tweet them at us.
Tweet them at us.
Yeah. If you're live in the chat with us right now, stay exactly where you are. Bardic Inspiration is going to be coming up right after this. It's a little bit of a shorter episode. It's going to be a request episode. So get your favorite songs ready and put them into the chat, and Jason might play them. So stick around for that. But that is going to do it for this week's episode. So until next week, take care of yourself.
Bye, everyone.
Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.